Szeretettel köszöntöm a képernyők előtt helyet foglaló kedves közönségünket. Ez itt a Liszt Ferenc Kamarazenekar videós podcast sorozata. Tóth Endre vagyok. Újra itt vagyunk a Zeneakadémia művész öltözőjében, a most következő vendégem pedig kettős szerepben lép fel a Liszt Ferenc Kamarazenekarral, illetve mire önök megtekintik ezt a videót, már múlt időben beszélhetünk erről a koncertről. Alexander Sitkovetsky vendégszólistája és vendégkoncertmestere az együttesnek. Fogadják őt szeretettel. I warmly welcome you and we are very happy that you accepted our invitation to this interview. I just mentioned in my introduction that we can hear and see you in a double role at this concert, which is not uncommon. We could even say that this is your trademark. What are the challenges of being a guest concertmaster and a guest soloist of a well-established ensemble at the same time, at the same concert?
Well, I think I try to. It's both a separation and a kind of bringing us all together, because even when I'm playing as a solo, my solo part, there is no conductor there. So in the end, we are still all making chamber music, just like when I'm sitting in the director role. So, and you know, for me, first of all, it's such a privilege to be here, you know, in Liszt Academy with the historic Liszt Orchestra, and I mean, they are a very, very good orchestra to start with. So, you know, I'm just coming and talking about a few details, a few specific ideas that I might have for my own interpretation, but the level of the orchestra is already very high. You know, I don't have to be like a policeman and don't have to show everything. The orchestra is so breathing so naturally together. The principal players are all so strong and have so much character that you know, it makes my job very, very easy. And yeah, for me, it's just been a real pleasure to spend time with them this week.
And you replied my next question as well. But in addition to being a soloist and concertmaster, chamber music also plays an important role in your life. Do these different tasks require different types of preparation or different skills?
To be honest, not that much, in my opinion, or at least for me personally, because I really do. Maybe it's a little bit of a cliche, but you know, unless I'm out there playing a Tchaikovsky concerto or an Elgar or a Bartók or something that has to be done with a big orchestra and has to be done with a conductor. I mean, even Tchaikovsky, I would argue, or at least I've seen done without conductor, and it can work actually, because the orchestration is much more classical than you think. But you know, there are some works which you need the conductor there, and then I feel then the role is different. Then you are truly, it's a solo role, and of course we listen to each other, but there is a certain kind of a little bit of a different attitude in that. But I find this is, you know, working with the chamber orchestra, especially in this case, we're doing a string program, so there's no winds. So it's really like an extended chamber music group. And for me, you know, I grew up with my uncle Dimitri Sitkovetsky, who had his own, he still has his own chamber orchestra, his own string orchestra called the New European Strings. And as I was a student, when I was a student at the conservatory in London, I used to play in the orchestra under him, exactly this kind of repertoire, and I used to also watch him do exactly this kind of programming that I'm doing right now. You know, he would play something solo, he would conduct. He didn't direct from the concertmaster stand, but he conducted. But it was this kind of very chameleon-like, very versatile, like music making, and I learned this repertoire in this kind of family of wonderful string players. And also at the Menuhin School, when I was a student there, we also had a string orchestra. So in fact, the Benjamin Britten was one of the first pieces of string orchestra I ever played. I was 11 years old at Menuhin School, and then they threw me into the back of the first violins, and I thought, okay, well, how difficult can it be? And it's actually one of the most virtuoso violin parts you can imagine, especially for a string orchestra setting. So yeah, so for me, in combination with my solo work and also my piano trio and my mixed chamber music, it's all different kinds of chamber music. Anyway, in the end, we have to listen to each other. We have to respect one another, have to listen to each other's ideas, experiment, try, rehearse, practice, perform together. I don't know. It's all music in the end.
Mm-hmm. How did you put the program together? Why did you choose Britten and Tchaikovsky? What were the guidelines?
Right. Well, to be honest, the program was kind of, it was from Istvan's impetus, probably more than mine, because he wanted to do the song cycle, the Les Illuminations, in the first half. And I think I suggested probably to him at that time, maybe when he asked me what I would like to do, I probably said Britten because it's one of my favorites and because I had just done it recently before then. So I probably thought, oh, that would be great to do here. And then he just asked, well, we would like you to play something solo as well, but not too long because the program is already quite big. And I love these Tchaikovsky pieces. They were originally the Souvenir dans le Cher. They were actually written originally, the only 3 pieces that he wrote for violin and piano. But then Glazunov made a big orchestration of, there's 5 pieces in total. There's the 3 Souvenir dans le Cher, and then there is 2 other pieces, the Melancholic Serenade and the Waltz Scherzo, which are separate from there. But Glazunov orchestrated all 5. And then also, to be honest, I don't remember who, but many people have orchestrated the Souvenir dans le Cher for violin and string orchestra. And I love these pieces. I think they're very, very beautiful. The meditation originally was meant to be the slow movement of the violin concerto. And then he changed his mind and kept it as a work by itself. Yeah, so that's how we came to this program. But I think it's a wonderful program. And I have so much love for Benjamin Britten in general. It's not just because I have lived in the UK for so long, but I think he's such a powerful, unique composer. His harmonic language is so important, and he was so instrumental really in inspiring a huge generation of British composers that came after him, or even during his time, but then followed on from him. Because somebody like Elgar, who of course is probably the UK's kind of greatest composer, but he was very much coming in at the end of Romanticism, and there was not really any British composers who wrote in his style or tried to kind of not, imitate. Imitation is a form of flattery, but tried to imitate him and go in the same way. There was, but Britten, like if you look at people like Malcolm Arnold or Michael Tippett, these composers, they're very much in the Britten mold. So he's very, very important, and I think his harmonic language is unique. I think they're just very powerful pieces of music, and actually both the song cycle Les Illuminations and the Frank Bridge variations, they were written within quite a short time span together, within a couple of years of one another, and you can hear that. You can hear a lot of similarities in the colors and the texture of the orchestra. A lot of the harmonic language also is quite similar. But yeah, it's a fantastic pieces of music.
You played several times here in Budapest. What fond memories and impressions do you have of Hungarian musicians and the Hungarian audience?
Well, as every Hungarian musician tells me, all musicians are from Hungary originally. Mozart was also Hungarian, apparently. So, but I do feel very much, I'm beginning to feel very at home here, but also I feel that Hungary is very much a home for, still beautiful, very high level and respect for classical music. I do feel it here a lot. I don't know what the Hungarians feel about it, but me as a guest coming here, I do feel that. And so many concerts, so much culture going on all the time. I mean, even just this week, some friends were flying in for one concert here, there. Like, there's just a lot of music going on. I know, for example, that we played the concert tonight, but I know that the Liszt Orchestra plays lots of concerts this weekend, also giving chance to some young musicians, which actually I heard yesterday in masterclass was fantastic, young, new kind of Hungarian generation of players as well. So, I really do feel that, sometimes we talk about, especially in the UK right now, we're having a lot of conversations about the future of classical music and about the difficulties with cuts and with reduction of orchestra members, reduction of music in general. There's still the hesitance to invest in a really world-class concert hall in London, which we were very close to doing, but somehow have never done. So it's here. It doesn't feel like I might be wrong, but here it feels like classical music is still very strongly supported, and as a musician, I feel very very uplifted when I'm here. Yeah.
Speaking of memories, as a child you studied at the Menuhin School and you could play together with Lord Yehudi Menuhin. Can you tell us a few words about working together?
We played
with
here
him?
in 1996, I believe. I played Mendelssohn Concerto with him conducting. I honestly don't remember the hall. Maybe it was the Opera House. It was some incredibly beautiful, much bigger than this.
Then must be.
Maybe it was the Opera House. And I remember that in the second half, I think it was Antau Shalai. Is that the right name? I'm saying is a Hungarian violinist.
Zala.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He played Bartók in the second half. I remember this, and this was my first Budapest experience and first memory of Hungary. Actually, I was incredibly sick. I remember I had a terrible cold, and my mom, we almost canceled the concert because like 10 days before I got really, really sick. But in the end, we came, and it was a wonderful honor and privilege to do that. But yes, I did. I was very fortunate. But also, in some ways, I find myself unfortunate because I was so young that to really appreciate who I was standing on stage with and the great things that this man accomplished, not just as a violinist or a conductor, as a musician, but just as a human being, the kind of humanitarian things that he did, the fact that he was the first, I don't want to get this wrong, but I believe he was at least one of the first Jewish musicians to come back to play to Germany after the Second World War. So he was always looking for connections. He was always looking for peace, for coming together. And so I wish that I could understand that better when I had that privilege to spend the time with him. But yeah, we played Bach double a couple of times. And then we played one of the really fun ones. I remember we played Bartók duos and some other things for Prince Charles and Princess Diana in St. James's Palace. I think it was in 1992 or something. I was nine years old. But Menuhin was the reason that I came to the UK in the first place. So he heard me, I guess, through my family connections. Because he knew my uncle Dmitri, and he also knew Dmitri's father, Julian Sitkovetsky, who was a great, great Soviet violinist who died unfortunately at the age of 32 only, but he was the same generation as Oistrakh and Kogan, and he was on that level. So Menuhin knew the family, and somehow when I was six and a half or something, he ended up in my living room in our apartment in Moscow, and he listened to me play, and he decided that he wanted to invite also my first violin teacher, and then my mother, who's a pianist, and myself to come to London and for them to teach at the Menuhin School and for me to study there. So really, my life, the way that it turned out, is very directly thanks to him. If he didn't come, maybe I would have had a very, very different path or different way of my education, of my growing up, everything.
And let me ask a last question, again in connection with the Franz Liszt Chamber Orchestra. And I ask all our guests this question: what do you wish them for their birthday?
Ooh. Well, I think it's such a privilege to, when you have an ensemble which has been around, it's 60 years, right? 60. When you have an ensemble that has been one of the top and best ensembles in the world for 60 years, I think being a member of this orchestra comes with a great responsibility and also a great fortune, because this kind of opportunity to be a custodian for the musicians that came before and for the musicians that will come after. Hopefully this orchestra will never close and will always be one of the highlights of Hungarian culture and to keep the legacy of it going. So I think I just wish the current musicians, you know, to just enjoy the privilege of being in this orchestra, to remember the past accomplishments and to constantly look into the future. I think they're doing this with István. I think István, I've known him for many years, since 2010 we met properly, and I find him to be just a fantastic musician. He's a great cellist. This is already everybody knows here, but he's also a great musician, and I know that he cares very passionately about the orchestra, and I know that he's constantly thinking about what we can do for the betterment of the orchestra to keep it rising and rising, and so I wish the musicians success and luck, and also just pleasure and enjoyment of being in this great group, and also that they know the responsibility to continue the story of the orchestra.
Thank you very much for your inspiring thoughts. It was very nice to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Alexander Sitkovetsky hegedűművészt látták, hallották. Úgy gondolom, ismét egy inspiráló beszélgetésen vagyunk túl. A podcast interjúk a nyáron egy kicsit szünetelni fognak, hogy majd ősztől újult erővel jelentkezzünk. Addig is reméljük, hogy a nyár folyamán is találkozunk majd önökkel a Liszt Ferenc Kamarazenekar koncertjein.